You weren't born with doubt in your head. You weren't born afraid to try. You weren't born thinking you're not enough. That was taught. That was repeated. That was programmed into you, quietly, and over time. And now you live with it like it belongs to you, like it's part of who you are. But it's not. It never was. The most dangerous damage isn't visible. It's not the job you didn't get. It's not the person who walked away. It's not the failure or the regret. It's what those moments taught your mind to believe. And now those beliefs, they loop inside you. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. You tell yourself it's fine. You keep moving like you're focused. But deep down, you're tired. Not tired from working. Tired from thinking. Tired from fighting your own thoughts. You wake up already under attack. A war in your head before your feet touch the ground. You're flooded with what-ifs. You replay things you can't change. You question your worth before the day even begins. And people wonder why you struggle with consistency. They think it's laziness. They think you're distracted. But how can you stay consistent when your thoughts are tearing you apart? You see, self-destruction rarely looks violent. It looks quiet. It looks like overthinking everything. It looks like procrastinating because you're afraid you'll fail anyway. It looks like not speaking up because you assume no one cares what you say. It looks like calling yourself names no one else would dare say to your face. But you say it to yourself. You say it like it's the truth. That's the problem. Your thoughts don't always reflect reality. They reflect what you've been through. They reflect what you've internalized, not what you're truly capable of. Your mind records every wound, every failure, every disappointment, and it starts to filter your future through your past. That's why when you finally get an opportunity, you hesitate. That's why even when you win, it doesn't feel like you've earned it, because the voice in your head already decided how the story ends. And it doesn't end with you rising. It ends with you losing. It ends with you giving up. That's how powerful your thoughts are. They decide whether your potential becomes real or dies in theory. They decide whether you move forward or stay stuck in place. They decide whether the door opens or you lock it yourself. Some of you have been building a life with a self-image that isn't even yours. It was given to you by someone who was afraid, by someone who didn't believe in themselves, so they couldn't believe in you. And now you've made that voice your own. You've repeated their fears until they became your truth. But the truth isn't always what you've heard the most. It's what stands even after your worst thoughts are questioned. You are not the thoughts you think when you're scared. You are not the voice that says you're too late. You are not the anxiety that paralyzes you before every big move. You are not the story your pain keeps trying to tell. And unless you learn to challenge the thinking that keeps you down, nothing else you build will last. Because mindset isn't just a motivational word. It's the foundation. And if the foundation is poisoned, the whole structure collapses. You can go to the gym every day. You can work 14 hours. You can wake up at 5 a.m. and hustle all you want. But if your internal world is rooted in guilt, doubt, and shame, none of it will stick. That's why you keep burning out. That's why nothing feels like it's enough. That's why even when people compliment you, it doesn't feel real. Because your thoughts are already tearing it down before it even registers. It's not always about working harder. Sometimes it's about working deeper, getting to the core, untangling the mental lies you've been fed, and finding the courage to see yourself clearly, without filters, without fear, without the noise. Some of you are mentally exhausted because you've been holding on to thoughts that never belong to you. You've been punishing yourself for things you couldn't control. You've been defining yourself by past versions of you that no longer exist. You still think like the person you were when you gave up. You still think like the person you were when they left. You still think like the person you were when it all went wrong. But you're not that person anymore. You've grown. You've endured. You've made it this far. And you didn't come this far to keep living under thoughts that were meant to destroy you. Not everything you think is true. Not every feeling is a fact. Some of your thoughts are just old echoes. Some of them are scars that haven't closed yet. And some of them, if left unchallenged, will ruin everything you've worked for. So pause and pay attention to what you're telling yourself. Would you say those words to your younger self? Would you say them to someone you love? Then why are you saying them to you? The thoughts that destroy you don't always sound loud. Sometimes they whisper. They sound like logic. They sound like caution. But they're fear wearing a mask. They're trauma pretending to be realism. And they're keeping you small. If you want to change your life, you start by changing how you think about you. Not once, not in the mirror with fake affirmations, but every time the lie comes up, you bring truth with it. Every time the shame rises, you anchor yourself in growth. Every time the doubt returns, you remind yourself that fear isn't a sign to stop. It's a sign to rebuild. Your thoughts can be weapons, or they can be the reason you never fight back, and it's on you to decide which one they become. You can't outwork a mind that wants you to fail. You can try. You can run from city to city, job to job, goal to goal. But if your mind is wired to expect the worst, you'll find it. You'll sabotage good things. You'll shrink when it's time to expand. You'll leave doors closed even when they're unlocked. Because the most powerful prison isn't made of walls. It's made of thoughts, and most people live their entire lives inside that cage, never knowing the key was in their hands. No one teaches you how to think. They teach you how to act, how to behave, how to follow rules, how to succeed on paper. But the inner world, the battlefield in your head, you're left to figure that out alone. And if your thoughts are corrupted, so is your vision, so is your self-image, so is every decision you make. You can't build a future when your mind is stuck in the past, and you can't unlock your potential when your thoughts are wired to protect your pain. Some of you have made pain your home. You don't want to suffer, but it's familiar. You don't want to fail, but you expect it. So every time life gives you something good, you brace yourself for it to vanish. You call it being realistic. You say you're just cautious. But underneath it all, it's fear. Fear that nothing lasts. Fear that you're not enough. Fear that if you try and it falls apart, you won't survive the fall. So you don't climb. You stay where it feels safe. And your mind convinces you that playing small is noble, that silence is wisdom, that not trying is smarter than failing. But deep down, you feel it. That ache, that quiet dissatisfaction. It's your potential begging to be seen. But potential doesn't speak loud. Not at first. It whispers. And if your thoughts are too loud with fear, you'll miss it. You'll scroll through life. You'll chase validation. You'll overthink every move, waiting for the perfect moment, and watch it pass 100 times. And the worst part? You'll call it discipline. You'll convince yourself that overplanning is preparation, that staying still is wisdom. But really, you're just afraid of what might happen if you trust yourself. Because trust is what's missing. Not strategy, not intelligence, not ambition. Trust. You don't trust your instincts. You don't trust your heart. You don't trust that what you feel inside could ever be strong enough to break the cycle you're trapped in. But it is. And it always was. You just stopped listening. You trained yourself to think small, stay quiet, stay safe. To double-check every word, second-guess every feeling, dull every instinct that tried to lead you forward. And now the thoughts that destroy you aren't loud or angry. They're subtle. They come in disguised as logic. They say, what if it doesn't work? They say, you should wait until you're ready. They say, you're not like them. And you listen, because it's easier to believe you're broken than to believe you're responsible. It's easier to stay in the cycle than to break it. But you weren't built for this cage. You weren't born to self-destruct. There's a version of you that thinks differently. Not delusionally. Not with false hope or fantasy, but with clarity, with power, with focus that cuts through noise and lies. That version of you isn't far away. It's not locked in some future. It's buried under noise. It's covered by years of mental clutter, unhealed hurt, unchecked fear. You don't need to create that version. you need to uncover it. And that starts by confronting what you let your thoughts become. They became your compass. They shaped your identity. They dictated your pace, your risks, your voice. But they weren't always true. You just heard them enough times that they felt true. So you stopped questioning. You accepted the mental fog as fact. And every time something inside you tried to rise, the thoughts pulled it back down. You're not ready. You don't have what it takes. It's too late. It's too risky. It's not you. Those phrases live rent-free in the minds of people with massive potential. They sound like wisdom. They sound protective, but all they do is keep your life on pause. And the truth is, most of what destroys you isn't even coming from your current self. It's coming from the version of you that was scared, isolated, misunderstood. That version created thoughts to protect you, but now you've outgrown that season, and you're still using the same script. Would you wear clothes that don't fit anymore? Would you keep habits that no longer serve you? Then why keep thoughts that were never meant for where you're going? This is why people feel stuck even when they're doing the right things. They're acting out a life with a mindset that isn't built for progress. They go to the gym, but think they're weak. They get opportunities, but think they're unworthy. They try to connect, but think they'll be abandoned. So the actions never feel aligned, because the thoughts underneath are sabotaging every step. You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're misaligned. And alignment doesn't come from doing more, it comes from thinking cleaner. It comes from understanding the war in your head is not random, it's rehearsed. You've rehearsed fear, you've rehearsed doubt. You've practiced shame until it became second nature, so it's time to unlearn it. One thought at a time. You won't silence the mental chaos all at once, but you can recognize it. You can choose to interrupt it. You can slow it down, expose it, and rewire what it's trying to convince you of. That's the real work. That's the internal grind no one sees. It's not glamorous. It won't go viral, but it's the difference between self-respect and self-destruction. No achievement can save you from a mind at war with itself. No success will feel real if your thoughts keep invalidating it. No relationship, no milestone, no victory will feel safe if your mind believes you're undeserving. So this is the challenge. Clean up your thinking. Not for motivation, not for fake positivity, but for survival, for clarity, for power. Because the thoughts that destroy you will not stop unless you challenge them. And the thoughts that free you, they don't shout. You have to choose to hear them. You can't fix what you won't face. And most people never face their thoughts. They distract, they scroll, they run, they bury the noise under habits, under goals, under endless motion. But silence always returns. And when it does, their mind takes the wheel. This is why some people never feel peace, because they never stay still long enough to hear the real battle. And the truth is, your thoughts will find you. Whether you're busy or not, whether you succeed or fail, whether you try to forget or pretend you're fine, the thoughts will come. And if you don't reshape them, they will reshape you. Because every thought has weight, not just words, but direction. A small thought can shift the path of your day. A repeated one can shift the path of your life. You don't become hopeless all at once. It happens gradually. You think one painful thought and don't challenge it. You think it again the next day. You add emotion to it, and before you realize, it becomes part of your identity. That's the trap. You start believing the worst thoughts are the most honest. You confuse pain with truth. You assume that because a thought hurts, it must be real. But thoughts are just stories. And not all stories deserve to be believed. You've believed some destructive ones for so long, they've become the lens you see yourself through. And now even your strengths feel like flukes. Your growth feels like luck. Your instincts feel like mistakes. That's what destructive thinking does. It erodes your self-trust. It makes you question your own progress. It turns confidence into arrogance. It turns rest into laziness. It turns boldness into recklessness. So you second-guess every good thing until it collapses. You don't need more willpower. You need better mental structure. You need to filter the noise, not just ignore it, because your mind is a room. If you don't clean it, you live inside the mess. And some of you have been breathing in mental dust for years. Guilt you never processed. Regrets you never questioned. Criticism you internalized. Lies you absorbed in silence. And it's not your fault what was said to you, but it is your responsibility to clean it out. To decide what stays and what leaves. To sort the truth from the trauma. To stop carrying what never belonged to you. And that's not easy. Not quick. Not glamorous. You'll feel resistance. Because the mind hates change, even when it's dying for it. You'll try to think new thoughts and hear the old ones scream louder. You'll try to believe in yourself and feel like a fraud. You'll try to let go of shame and feel it pull tighter. But that doesn't mean you're failing. It means the system is reacting. Because something inside you is finally disrupting the pattern. You were trained to self-destruct. Now you're unlearning it, and unlearning feels like loss, but it's really freedom. You're not broken, you're buried, and every time you choose a better thought, you dig closer to who you really are. That's how transformation begins, not with fireworks, but with mental discipline, with choosing to stop rehearsing the same destruction every morning, with realizing you don't need to believe everything your brain suggests. It's a machine. It's fast, reactive, emotional. It wants comfort, but growth is never comfortable. That's why your mind fights it. It wants control, and growth requires surrender. You have to let go of the voice that says, "I already know who I am." Because maybe you don't. Maybe you only know the version shaped by fear, by rejection, by comparison. Maybe the real you has been waiting beneath the noise, waiting for silence, waiting for space, waiting for a thought strong enough to rebuild everything. And that thought is simple, not flashy, not loud, but powerful. I decide what I become. Not the past, not the critics, not the voice in your head that never believed in you. You. You get to choose what thoughts you water. You get to choose which ones you question. You get to choose which ones you outgrow. And no, that doesn't mean life becomes perfect, but it becomes clearer. It becomes cleaner. You stop dragging yourself down. You stop poisoning your own momentum. You finally become your own ally, not your enemy. Because the truth is, no one can stop you like you can. Not a person, not a failure, not even time, only you. If your thoughts turn against you, your progress collapses from the inside. But if your thoughts sharpen, your life becomes unshakable, even when the outside world is chaos. That's the mark of strength. Not how much you do, not how loud you are, not how much you push, but how clean your mind is when pressure hits. Some of you are carrying mental scripts that are decades old. They don't match your growth. They don't reflect your truth. They don't deserve a place in your future. So let them burn. Let the lies unravel. Let the voice of fear get quieter every time you move. You're not here to repeat the same stories. You're not here to live afraid of your own reflection. You're not here to run circles around what-ifs. You're here to think clearly, to choose consciously, to rise internally before the outside ever changes. Because when your thoughts rise, everything else follows. Your discipline sharpens, your vision clears, your energy levels up. Your life bends toward the image you finally believe in. So start there, not with action, with awareness, not with noise, with clarity. You don't have to win every thought, but you do have to stop giving your worst ones a microphone. This is the moment, not some future day where everything is aligned. Right now, where your thoughts are loud, where the pressure is high, where fear still lingers. Right here, you decide who you become. And if the thoughts that once destroyed you try to return, let them find someone unrecognizable.